All right, here we go. Here is the final, all put together here. Poseidon to kick off, or to start the end, to wrap up. There's the word. There's the terminology. Wrap up Poseidon Week with the full dude. So let's take Iron Shell here. And like I said, some really clever transformation on the part of this dude. So we'll go ahead, we'll take these feet back out. Go ahead and unclip his, what will become his chest plate. We can go ahead and flip those up like that. So untab the chest plate from down here. Lift his arms up. I'm gonna go ahead and collapse his kneecaps back down. Bring these around, close the toes up, and they're gonna fold around and sit here on the side of the leg like this. Just like that. We'll open these back up. Fold these up. We're gonna bring these up here at the circle ratcheting joint, and then fold them down at the joint inside the leg itself. So again, widen those up like that. Actually want to leave them straight a little bit until we fold these all the way around. And then once that's done, you can go ahead and make sure this tab doesn't get stuck in there. Fold them straight up and down, and then fold this panel back in, and then fold this down. To sit back here, before you do that, flip out the connector port, which can be a little difficult. Getting that first click. Hold on, let me see if I can't get a little tool here and fix that. All right, so yeah, sometimes you take a little thing to pry that out. It can get stuck up in there, and it's really difficult. So bring that down, bring this up. Around like this. There we go. That one came out a little easier. Bring that down, bring the connector port down, and then once that's collapsed all the way up, fold that down, and then just the foot, you can, I guess it doesn't rotate all the way around, but just kind of bring that down, sit behind the leg here. Rotate, or go ahead and extend his torso up like that. And we're going to rotate this entire, both this half and this half, around to the front. Let's get his arms up out of the way here. Like this. So now the once backward leg, the knees are now the thighs here. Like that. This out of the way. Leave the turtle shell head down like this. Make sure these tabs here have stayed flipped out. And then we're going to open up these two panels here on his abdomen. This stays extended. And when we connect all this, these pink tabs are going to tab into the slots here on this piece. And actually, we can go ahead and do that. Snap those in there. Make sure it connects on the other side as well. And then this piece right here tabs into the top of the turtle head, like that. Bring this open, fold his head back down into here. The arms, we're going to rotate around. We're going to flip out these combiner ports up here, which are a little easier to do. These are going to rotate back around. Actually, you might not want to peg this in yet. So make sure the fist is folded in there. So this comes up, this tabs back in to the side of the body here, like just like it was, and this just sticks straight up. I feel like that should be, hold on. Yeah, this should come further back like that, because this piece should be vertical almost. And then the front leg tabs onto the front of the shoulder here. There we go. And then this should tab right back into the body. There we go, just like that. And same over on this side. Rotate this around, bring the pink part all the way back up, fold this down, fold the fist in, fold this up, tab the leg into the front, and then tab the arm into the side of the torso here. Again, I'm not sure why this is giving me trouble, because this should just pop right into place here. There we go. It's just a matter of getting that foot lined up right, because this foot can keep it from collapsing up if you don't have this lined up right. Anyway, so that tab's in here. Now you can have this tab in to the front part here, as well as up here. Like I said, the feet just kind of sit up there behind the silver bits. Back here, I'm going to come under here, open up this panel right here. Make sure I'll flip up these two pink panels as well, and open up this panel and open up these two side panels. That's going to fill in the lower torso here. And before we snap all this into place, and these are going to tab in behind the arms, you want to open up these two panels right here. And this is the part that can get tricky, especially if you have installed the neck mod, which we'll show off later. But you want to get under here, and you've got to get his combiner head to pop out. And it sits in there pretty tightly. It helps if you kind of twist it to one side so you can get a little bit of leverage there. And pop it out, and then push it up through here, like that. Lift it up, and then close these two panels again in here. Now this time we're gonna plug it into here, and then bring it down so everything tabs in down here. These pink panels should peg into the back of the arms. And then these panels right here, there's a tab on the front that tabs into this back of the panels that we opened up to widen the torso. Up here, the other pink tabs tabbed into. So that make sure that those go in the slot up here, and that should lock that all together. And that fills in. It's not a skinny torso. It actually gives them a wide abdomen under here, which is really nice. The way the torso comes together is really nicely designed. This panel down here, we're going to go ahead and flip these. And this can get tricky because you have to rotate these around. And like, there's a spot where you can actually lift it up vertically. There's a gap here. You want to, from the underside, get it so it's sticking straight up like that, and then rotate it around the ball joint, and then flip it back up to get that around to the right position. And this piece you just want to rotate around and tab in to form his cod piece. And then this head comes down and tabs in right here. Now, if you haven't installed the new headpiece, that's where his head sits. And from the front, it looks okay, but you notice it kind of sits a little further back on the torso. It really isn't that bad. But if you install the new neck piece, there's an extra hinge that comes up and allows the head to sit a little forward, right above where his robot head normally would sit. So right there about the center of the torso. It's a minor adjustment, and if you don't feel like going through the hassle of replacing the neck joint, and it can be a bit of a pain, it really doesn't look bad in the normal position, because in order to replace the neck joint, you're not going to stay there. We're just going to lay you down. You pretty much, you can pop the pin out. It's very difficult because you have to replace this whole green assembly, and you can see not only is there a very long pin through here, but it's really hard to get in there with all this shell. And their recommended way of doing it, and the way that I just went ahead and did, was to cut away all the material around the old pin and then just snap this piece off, and then get some pliers. You can kind of see where I tore it up. Get some pliers and just kind of forcibly slide the pin to the side until it comes out far enough that I could pull it out, and then put the new piece in the new pin, because it comes with a new piece and a new pin. That's the easiest way to do it. It means you can't go back, but if you're going to replace the neck joint, there's really no reason to go back. And like I said, and you may want to, before you put the pin in, sand it down off some of the black coating, because it is very difficult, if you don't know what you're doing, to force that pin through. It's very tough. Even if you do know what you're doing, it was difficult if you don't sand that down. But there's his torso with the connector joints. And that transformation is really cool. And also you can extend the cannons as well. So a little bit more visible here in torso mode. They can still lean forward if you want. And if you open the fins up a little bit, you can still actually use them as kind of Predaking-esque cannons on his back on this mode. But I personally just like to have them stick straight up. Again, reminiscent of the old toy. So now it's time to put them together. And I have already configured my limbs in the way that I want to do them. And I decided on the way that I'm putting them together is not the canon way. I mean, you can argue over a 6-way combiner whose his whole point was Scramble City and Target Master. Any of them can be any limb and a gun. Apparently, there are a few ways that he has never combined, and you can do that. You can set it up however you want. And I will explain why I'm doing it the way that I am doing it. Let me sit this down here real quick and get these guys. All right, so the way I'm doing it is I've got the two mainly teal guys down as the legs. So Menta Razor and Deathclaw. And you kind of got to click at their connectors. The arms, I flipped the connectors, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But you flip the connector out and then actually slide the connector in and stand them up just like that to connect a leg. Let's go ahead and get Deathclaw attached here. And everything here is the stock leg. I haven't added any of the enhancement kit pieces to it, which we'll show off in a moment. So stand them up, get them going here. Trust me, once we start getting the arms on here, they're going to start going. And again, I've got the toes spread here on the feet because it just, if you had them straight, if you had them closed up like that, like the picture show, there's already some give there in the toe, and it causes them to lean forward. You can make them stand with the standard feet, with the toes closed. I've done it, but for the sake of having to shoot a video review and not wanting them to fall right over, it's the safest way to do it. So there are those two attached down here as feet, and then up here we've got 1,000 kills and Tentakill. Let me actually know what I've got some options to make this stand a little higher. There we go. Look at that. I love this new little tripod I got. So here he is up here, and like I said, it's very simple. There's 4 screws on the back of all the torsos of these guys. You unscrew those, you pop them apart, and the connector port is a separate piece. There's no spring. The spring is internal. You can just flip it. And because normally these would connect from the underside of the arm. These was flipped the other way, and they were sturdy enough, but if you tried to pose them or play with them, they'd fall off. So I flipped them so they come in from the top. And it's just a matter of attaching that arm over here. And then, so there's a Big Bite as that arm. And again, either of these could swap to either side. This is just how I've done it. This guy, there's the base form. And then you can give, now the joints don't hold it very well. But you want to have the peg that sticks out on the back side of this handle to fit into the hand. But then we'll give Cyberjaw as a gun. And there he is, all combined. And the reason I did it this way is because, one, originally they only had Big Bite as the blue and pink one. Because I think, like I said, 1,000 Kills wasn't announced right off the bat. And as you can see, with the missing purple on Cyberjaw, it was very teal heavy. Like this green was very prominent and very heavy. And if you had these guys up here as arms and these guys as legs, it kind of threw the color balance off. It looked like he was a big teal guy wearing blue pants, whereas this kind of helps bring the color scheme a little uniformity, because you've got some of the magenta from these guys tying into the body, and then the magenta and teal coming down his legs into the feet, as well as, again, with the enhancement kits will help it as well. Before we get to the enhancement kits, let's go ahead and put his sword together. I use the short handle. I don't use the dual peg, the super long handle. But you can. It's up to you. I just prefer the shorter handle for the sword. You can actually just use this for a smaller version of the sword as well. There's different ways you can combine it. I'm going to do the big combiner sword. So you take this, and then we take these swords like this. Just like that. And then these smaller pieces, it's these swords right here, fit in. Wait, I'm using the wrong swords. Am I? No, okay, right here. So you can see how those cutouts match up. So attach. These are, I believe, Big Bite swords and Deathclaw. I think these came with Deathclaw. Yeah, these are the Deathclaw swords with Big Bite swords here on the lower part. And once you've got that, you've got these 4 pegs. Now, some people have sanded these down to make this a little easier. I have found that as long as you don't shove them in there real hard, and as long as when you're pulling them out, you're careful, you don't just try to yank them out. It's a little tight, but you can actually get these in and out without too much. You just got to kind of wiggle them, just wiggle them slowly, and eventually, like, you just, because it is possible to get them stuck in there if you just jam them in really hard. But you just be patient and just kind of slowly wiggle them loose versus trying to yank them out. You shouldn't have any problems. Like so that, and part of it's because I've done it a few times now, so they're coming out a little easier anyway. So you take this, and then there's little peg holes under here that you use to connect these up into. And actually, you want to extend this down a little bit. Not quite that far. There you go. Just give it some clearance so you can get under here with these peg holes. But take all 4 of these little pieces and peg them into the bottom here. And you can have them flat as more of a hilt or a pommel, or you can widen them out however you choose to have it. I like to have them wide, but it's up to you. Again, be careful because some of these go in a little easier than others, and you are dealing with some, they're not sharp, but they are pointy, and with enough force behind them, they're going to hurt you, so be careful not to mess anything up there. But then, so there's, you could have that as just a short little sword if you wanted. A little weird, or you put you connect more of the pieces like this down here and have a spear, however you want to do it, but we're going to go for the big sword. So we're going to stand that up, then we're going to take, these are Cyber Bites, or Cyber Jaws, one day I'm going to get that right, swords with Menta Razor's swords. And again, you just kind of fit those into the cutouts on the interior. There we go. Same on this side. And then that forms a kind of the upper half of the sword, and then that gets sandwiched in. I'm missing one of these. Oh, there it is. Between Iron Shell's bit. Now, Iron Shell's bit has a little slot in here that goes over the tabs on this sword. So you kind of do that. Get this up in here, and then actually, I guess what you want to do first is snap these together around the sword like that, and then just take this and insert it into the top. And there's the whole beautiful sword. That is a really neat sword. The way that it comes together from all the pieces, I think, is really elegant and cool. And then you can push this handle back up once you've got that done. Or you can slide it down a little bit to fit easier in the hand. But that is a beautiful sword. Before we stick it in there, let's go ahead and do the enhancement packs now. So the reason I picked this, and you can have your options, because 1,000 Kills comes with a magenta pack. And then you can buy the blue and the teal, which match the various ones. If you want to have a more coherent, you could choose the colors if you have the same 2 color legs, or even alternate legs, and you have both of these. You can choose, like I said, if I had a blue leg here and a green leg here, you could use these to enhance, make this look more green and this look more blue. If you want to just have, I feel like if you only use these, if you have the 2 greens or the 2 blues down here, you can use these to make them look more coherent and integrated into the lower half of the robot. If you have one of each, this one's probably more your choice, because it's gonna bring more of the burgundy color together. But the reason I did it like this is because I saw in the first page of the thread for this guy on TFW, somebody had gone through like all the various combinations with all of the pieces. So the one that I use in this configuration is the blue, because you've already got, especially with the gun now hanging down here, again, it's very teal heavy. And if you use this, it kind of brings that blue, again, integrated down into the whole robot and really makes it feel like a coherent whole. So that's the reason I choose to do this. So I'll show you how these pieces work. We're going to pop the kneecap pieces off. We'll take these two blue pieces, lift up the yellow pieces, and fold them up like this, and then fold the yellow pieces. These actually, at this point, we do actually want those to tab in. That's going to lock that together. And you see these kind of silvery teeth-looking things, you want those facing up. Also, like I mentioned earlier, you could take the gun handle off of Cyberjaw and slide it into either one of these slots, depending on, because it's essentially the same, whichever way you flip it, and turn this into a rifle that the robot can hold as well. You can same over here. And lock those into place. These are going to be the replacement ankle pieces. These become replacement kneecaps. So you fold this down and up, and then this tab, it rotates. This tab should slot into the back of it. If you get it lined up properly. Oh, this way. Not that tab. This tab should go in the back of it. Like that. So it should look like that with these two little kind of tabby pieces here. And same this way. But make sure that it all kind of tabs in together. There we go, like that. And then these two little slots go over these tabs on the knee. So when you do this, it enhances, it brings a little bit of a, gives them blue kneecaps, which you can kind of bring down and integrate in, or bring the tail up there on the leg. And then you can bring his head out a little bit, actually, to make room for the kneecap here. There we go. Okay, no, don't fall. We're good. And you can see now we've got, you can lower that down kind of in behind his lobster head. So now you've got the blue kind of coming down into the main body, and then the feet, and I probably should have done these first. If you pop the feet off, the little connectors, and it takes a little bit of doing. And there's, you can see the extra connector there in between the legs. So you take the feet off, and then this piece has the same kind of, you actually have to flip down this tab, or this peg right here. And it basically becomes an in-between for the connector. So this peg goes into this peg hole, and this peg goes into this peg hole. Like that. Make sure that tabs all the way in, and then you just tab the leg back into this as if you were tabbing it into the ball joint there in the foot. And we'll do the same on this side. Don't worry, we'll stand it back up. There we go. Again, let's open this up, flip that peg down. The only slightly problematic bit is getting the this to go in, because that is on a ball joint, and it's really easy to kind of slide it around and make sure you're just getting kind of above the joint. And do make sure you can press it as far down as you can, because otherwise it will just pop off like that. There we go. And then again, we'll just reattach the foot to the top of this. And that's the way I like to put them together, because it adds some blue down to the lower half of the robot, and it just kind of, in general, evens out, I think, the levels of the blue and teal, and really just kind of makes them look more like a coherent combiner, which is nice. You can see the gun mode's a little heavy and is dragging him to one side, but just to give you a look at them all combined up. Can I turn on the... I can't turn on the flash here. Maybe if I get this out of the way, it'll use some shadows to really show off that teal and blue down on the lower half of the robot. You can also have him hold... One of these is not... There we go. There we go. One of them just was not angled properly. And you can see he's leaning forward a little bit because of the weight of the gun. And if I didn't have him doing that, if I didn't have those toes out, he'd be falling forward right now. Give him his sword in this hand. It tabs in just like the gun. And now he's getting a little heavy. Yeah, I know, buddy. I know. It's okay. We gotcha. So yeah, you start loading him down with weapons, he gets a little tipsy. Oh, and because this toe flipped out a little bit. Come on, dude. Anyway. Let's get him back a little bit so we can get as much of him in the frame as we can. He's a little in shadow, but I think that helps make him look a little bit more menacing. So yeah, all in all, he's a pretty cool combiner. And you can, like I said, you can swap out any of the limbs into guns or wherever you want. I don't know why this is now. There we go. Just as a quick, how much bigger does he get? There he is with Iron Shell. So Iron Shell does make up a good, decently sized proportion of him, all said, because I love the way he bulks out into this torso. The way he goes from the skinny waist to filling in that whole torso bit is really cool. Here he is with the G1 Seacons. I'm just kidding. He's not that big. That's actually the Kabaya candy kit. I was just being silly. But they are the G1 Seacons. They're just a smaller candy kit version of them. And here he is with MP10 and Masterpiece Megatron. Not as towering as some of the Zeta toys and other third-party combiners, but he's big and he's cool looking. And again, it is possible to get him to not be leaning this much, partly by getting rid of his sword, but also just, I'm sure there's a, like if I click a knee back, it will help a little bit. But just to give you an idea of what he looks like. He does also come with these, and if you flip the connect, these are designed to sit in his joints up here, and when they connected from the bottom and supposedly lock them, there's a little bit of a gap here. It does make them a little bit more secure on the arm connection, but not as secure as flipping those combiner ports. So if you flip the combiner ports, these really don't go on very well, so they're just kind of extra pieces, which is fine. But if you do have them sliding on from the bottom, these can sit in the shoulder gaps and kind of, fill in the gap a little bit and give it a little bit more security, but they don't really lock the arms in place if you're coming from the underside. But yeah, this guy's awesome. Let's see if we can do some posability. I mean, like, he's got all the ratcheting joints you would expect his arm. He can't really hold, like the sword he can kind of hold up. He really cannot, in any appreciable way, hold the Target Master straight forward without some sort of stand. He will topple forward, and you don't really want that. There we go. Well, you were holding the sword up for a second there, buddy. Good job, you. I'm proud of you. But he's got the ball joint neck. He's really impressive. You know, so they got the ratcheting arms. He does have ratcheting elbows. He's got wrist swivel. The fingers are all articulated on the hands. He does have waist swivel. He's got the ratcheting joints in the hips, although you're really not going to go too wide from where he's at right now, because he is fairly hefty. He's got ratcheting knees and then the ball joints in the feet, which don't get quite as much motion if you put those ankle enhancements on. But are still there, and then the toes, of course. You can fold those in and get some toe articulation, but it really does make him a little less stable when it comes to actually reliably standing. And with a guy this big and expensive, I feel like reliably standing is a small price to pay for stability. I really love him. Now that all the quality control issues were fixed, the few busted pieces have been replaced. I liked him before, to be honest, but now he's got all his parts. I like him with the blue enhancement pack there. Like I said, it really just kind of evens out the levels of all the colors. And this one was worth the wait. Like I've been wanting this guy. I mean, I think 1,000 Kills hasn't been out for too long now. It did. That was one of the benefits of not getting him for a long time was when I did finally get him, I got him all at once. So also a bonus without having that long interminable wait between, oh, I got the first limb of a combiner, now what? This has been a fun week, and I realize that this is the space that I needed to shoot something this big, and it's what I've got available to me right now. It's not the most ideal, excuse me, I've been talking for a while, shooting space. But this has been a fun week. This has been, like I said, this has been a journey. Like if you follow me, I think I've mentioned it even in a couple of my videos, but if you follow me on Twitter especially, I've been talking about like, man, I really hope one day I can get that guy. Maybe I'll wait for it to go on sale. And finally I just dug down and sold some of the stuff that I had and went ahead and picked him up. I had a good couple months and said, yeah, I think it's time. And it turns out like I probably would have waited a little longer to get him, except I saw him, a lot of the individual members had sold out in a lot of places, and then TF Source had the set of 6 available, and I was watching it thinking like, okay, a couple weeks, I'll go ahead and I'll pull the trigger and I'll pick that guy up. And then one day I was looking at it and it said last one. And so FOMO, I guess, but that was where I said, okay, give me it. And I am super glad I did, because one, I love the Seacons. I love their color scheme. I do wish he had more purple, but I like the ability of any of them to be a weapon and any of them to be any of the limbs. And just for that achievement alone, this guy really, really succeeds. The way he's totally Scramble City. Any of these guys can fit anywhere except for the torso, obviously, is neat. Like I said, I do recommend if you get him, because like I said, this works for me. I could have been fine with just this one, and if you get with just the blue enhancement pack, that's the look I was going for when I saw all those pictures. And like I said, if you go to the TFW 2005 thread, the main thread for Poseidon, the first post on the first page shows just about every configuration of the limb bots with the various enhancement packs. So you can get an idea for like, maybe you'll decide that you really just like the look of this magenta pack and you don't need the extra ones. You'll get one of these with 1,000 kills and you're good to go. I decided I wanted to have some options to play around with. So I got the blue and the green ones on top of the one that came with 1,000 kills. I knew I was pretty sure I was going to stick with the blue and having it in hand. That's the one I like. But I did want to have the ability to swap these around. And again, if I bring the blue guys down to the legs, I'll probably either use this one or the green one maybe. Or I'll see what it looks like with the blue, although that might make it a little blue. Again, I feel like if you mixing and matching, like having him here and then maybe swapping these two, however you do it, would look okay. I just think that like with the gun and having both of these guys up on the chest next to the big teal chest plate and the big teal head makes it look like a teal robot wearing blue pants. And this, I think, breaks it up a little bit. Anyway, I've said that. He's really cool. Definitely worth the investment. I'm very happy with him. And like I said, I'm kind of glad I waited, because it wasn't just a impulse, buy them as they come out and then be disappointed. Like, I researched him, I looked at a lot of pictures, I debated it, and it wasn't just an impulse, okay, I bought it, I thought this was going to be cool, and it wasn't. Like, I made the slow metered decision to say, I mean, I realized when I actually pulled the trigger, it was kind of a, oh, last one, I better get it. But I had been looking at it for a while as something that I potentially wanted, and that delayed reward was kind of nice. But there he is, TFC's Poseidon. I do agree with the people who say this is probably their best combiner to date. He's solid, he's massive, he looks awesome, and he's going to go in a place of honor somewhere in the house because I really dig him. Plus, like I said, I liked Iron Shell enough that I got a second one so I can have one to play with and still without having to pull this whole thing apart. Now, any of the limb bots, if I want to play with, I'll just pop them off and play with them. But, because you can't, with the torso off, you have to detach all the limbs. If I just want to play with one of the limb bots, I just have to detach one of them. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I know it's been a long week, and I've rambled enough for this video. But like I said, if you have the means and you've been eyeing it, pick it up because it's a lot of fun. Be careful with it. There are a lot of pointy bits. I have injured myself, which is healed miraculously a lot faster than I thought it was, and didn't hurt nearly as much as I thought it was gonna. But yeah, cool dude, cool combiner, worth the pickup. TFC's Poseidon.